Are Canadians going to have access to frozen at sea spot prawn tails in 2022? Nobody knows. Still. But wait, you say, I thought all that got resolved last year. Well, it didn't. It got forestalled for a year. So let's do a quick rewind and review what's happened in the past year, and then I'll update you on what we know and what we don't know about the 2022 spot prawn season. So on March 3rd, 2021, the Pacific Prawn Fishermen's Association, which represents prawn license owners in BC, sent an email to harvesters stating that they were recently informed by DFO prawn manager Lori Convey that the Conservation and Protection Branch has deemed the practice of tubbing prawn tails illegal, as it does not meet their interpretation of the conditions outlined in the Fishery General Regulations. Any vessel found tubbing tails would be found in violation and charged. This reinterpretation, just a couple of months before the opening of the fishery, led to massive confusion and panic amid the public and the industry. Harvesters begged for clarity, and at minimum for a delaying of this change to accommodate an already extremely stressed industry. But we were met with silence. So petitions were circulated, and thanks to thousands of our members and the public who signed them, many press stories drew the attention of the public and of MPs across Canada. In June, 2 emergency sessions of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans attempted to expose a deeper understanding of the issue. Harvesters, the DFO, and concerned organizations like Skipper Otto were called to witness to the committee. As they dug deeper, members of the committee were as baffled as we were about how and why this reinterpretation came into existence.
I want to thank the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for doing something that not even the COVID-19 pandemic could do, which is bring the 4 political parties together unanimously in agreement about something that appears to be an egregious overstep on behalf of the government.
The MPs of the committee established that there was no thorough consultation with harvesters in the industry on the change. It became clear that when the DFO says industry, they mean just a small handful of large corporations, not the associations that represent First Nations, harvesters, and small businesses.
You're saying that they were consulted because in the meetings that we've had earlier, the industry didn't seem to have been consulted.
Then they established that the reinterpretation of the Fisheries General Regulation was not a conservation issue.
My concern is I still haven't heard a good reason why you've redefined the reinterpreted the regulations.
Our concern is whether the product is readily available for inspection.
Okay.
What we're trying to inspect is size.
Right. So you had 41 violations on the whole coast for prawns on the prawn fishery. Only 2 of them were size related.
Yes, that's correct. There's on average 41 violations per year in the prawn fishery. The prawn fishery is a very short fishery, lasting about 4 to 5 weeks. And on average, it's about 2 violations per year. We have not seen one 2020 or 2021 at the moment.
People are looking for answers. They're looking for answers from government. I'm not hearing good answers.
We are doing our best to respond to your questions. I'm sensing a lot of frustration and concern, but the issue around tubbing is one about products being readily available.
Doesn't answer my question, Ms. Reid. My question was, is there any indication that prawn populations are in decline because of tubbing?
The question makes the premise that tubbing is causing a conservation concern, and that's not the case.
You failed to make the point that you have an enforcement issue. I'm a former conservation officer. I'm a former national park warden. I understand fully the idea of leaving things marked so that they're easily accessible for law enforcement. You've told me that you've had a whopping 2 out of 41 on average, a case where if it's not a case of conservation concern, which it clearly is not, because size does not matter when it comes to prawns for conservation, which is something that has already been admitted here, then there must be a reason for doing this that meets some type of conservation or some other type of rationale for enforcement.
The members of the Standing Committee were unanimously dismayed, confused, and frustrated with the DFO's obfuscation on the matter of tubbing.
So I haven't thought a tub of prawns myself.
You're the senior person in DFO that basically the whole issue we've been hearing before this committee is the readily availability to inspect a tub of frozen prawns
All
by
right, so
your
you
officials?
would need to know the size of the tub. So is it 1 pound? Is it 10 pounds? You know, what temperature is it frozen at? You know, how long, you know, what's the exterior temperature? What kind of thawing process are you going to use? Are you going to use water? Are you going to use boiling water? And
Well,
so
let's
to
go
say
to
how
let's
long it
go
will,
to the simplest one. Anyhow, you seem to be waffling all around the
I'm
edge.
not waffling. I'm just trying to point out that there's a number of different
Misread
factors.
from my listening of the evidence that we've been getting, the answers is not satisfactory.
By the end of the sessions, it was pretty clear that the standing committee saw no reason whatsoever for the change to the practice of tubbing and freezing prawns at sea. Following the emergency sessions on June 24th, the committee submitted a strongly worded letter to the minister outlining 14 recommendations, including number 4, establish a standard tub size in consultation with industry that can be quickly and efficiently thawed for inspection by no later than the 31st of December 2021. Number 10, implement a timeline standard so that any regulation changes or reinterpretations must be announced no later than 180 days prior to the opening of the prawn fishing season. And number 14, apply a local access lens in its regulatory decisions to ensure that due consideration is given to the access of fresh, locally and sustainably caught seafood in coastal communities. That letter and its recommendations were submitted to the minister on the final day that the House was in session before the House was dismissed for summer. And then an election was called and a new minister appointed. In mid-November, with a first deadline of 180 days prior to the opening of the prawn season upon us, I hadn't heard anything. So I called together the members of our spot prawn task force to hear if any harvesters or associations had heard anything from DFO. They had not. We weren't even sure if the new minister was aware of the issues and the recommendations of the standing committee. So I submitted a letter recapping the past year of proceedings and asking her to take swift action to consult and provide clarity to prawn harvesters busy making plans for the 2022 season. So stand by. We still don't have any answers, and harvesters need clarity around what's going to happen with the spot prawn season in 2022. They need to be able to make plans around all fisheries without fear of being whipsawed by sudden changes with no consultation or communication. And you know, it sure would be nice if all of this hard work ushered in a new era of transparency, meaningful consultation, and good faith between DFO and harvesters. So I hope you'll join me in keeping a watchful eye on things to be sure that that happens.